When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can share the thrill with friends using our exclusive BetShare feature.
Welcome back to the TwinSpires jury, and bem-vindo for our viewers in Brazil. And I'm here, Ashley Anderson, with Darin Zoccali and James Scully to talk our best bets and fades of the week at Churchill Downs primarily, but we'll also look at Royal Ascot. We're going to talk Thistledown for the Ohio Derby as well, and some Belmont at the Big A. So, James, I'll start things off with you today. Tell me what your best bet of the week is and where you're going to play that.
My best bet of the week is number 8. She called in race 9 at Churchill Downs on Saturday. Now, this is an entry-level allowance race for 3-year-old fillies, and She Called is a daughter of Audible who made her career debut in mid-March at Oaklawn Park. In that race that day, she finished a close second to Lady Moscato, who came back and won her next start over allowance rivals by 8.5 lengths and has made her last 2 starts in graded stakes. She Called came back off that race, broke her maiden next time out a month later at Oaklawn, and looked good doing so. But really, what kind of competition are you facing in maiden races in late April at Oaklawn Park? So jury was a little bit out on her quality. She came last time out on May 25th in an entry-level allowance. We'll take a look at this race right here. We could see her in the blue cap. She fought the entire way on the front end with Silver Rose, who's down on the rail. Silver Rose, she's going to be a graded stakes performer. And you'll see Navy Bell making her first start. First for Greg Foley, gets through between them, wins this race narrowly. I thought this was a tremendous performance by the top 2. Like I said, Navy Bell, I think, is going to graded stakes. I think Silver Rose, who ran a close second there, came back last night or yesterday, Wednesday at Churchill Downs, went off 3-5 in the same kind of race that She Called in on Saturday and absolutely dominated as a 3-5 favorite for Brad Cox. I thought that was a very, very salty allowance race. I thought She Called ran her eyeballs out. And, that's a perfect race that's like a learning experience. She's a filly that didn't come along until this spring. She just needed seasoning, race experience to really start putting things together. This is the time where she's going to start progressing for Norm Cassie, who does really well with these young up-and-coming types. And I'm going to look for She Called to keep progressing off that race and win race number 9 at Churchill on Saturday. Darin, what do you think? Who's your best bet?
Yeah, same track. Churchill Downs, the 11th race, second level allowance, 1 mile and a 16th schedule for the turf course. And it's a price with number 1 Harlow Cap, who's listed at 12-1 on the morning line, Christian Torres for Steve Asmussen. And basically what this race comes down to for me, guys, is of the horses that have turf experience, who exactly scares you in this race? Miranda Wrights is the 5-2 morning line favorite. He's 2 for 14. Beaten out by about 3/4 of a length last time in a decent race, but had a good trip that day. Similar inside journey, 2 starts back. Just has not had that big late punch that he's needed in order to get the job done. The horse to his inside, Fair Dinkum, is the 3-1 second choice. He finished 8th, beaten 7 lengths as the beaten favorite last time out in his first race back off the layoff. He's been hit or miss, 2 for 9 lifetime. Miranda Wrights is 2 for 14 lifetime. Clyde's Got a Gun, who's the 3rd choice, is a deep 1-run closer, which is always tricky over this turf course at Churchill. And then you have my horse Harlow Cap, who's got speed down to the inside, is going to try turf for the first time. And he's just been facing better horses than what the rest of this field has been facing. Obviously, the Grade 3 Pimlico Special with Pyrenees, Kings Barnes. He's faced Rocket Can of late. He's faced King Russell. I mean, these are just better horses than what these other turf runners have been facing, and he's by Justify, who could certainly throw a turf runner, 14% clicking in terms of his turf percentage. And I think he's going to go to the front, guys, and take the shortest way around on the cut back to 1 mile and a 16th. And if he takes to the turf course, I think he's extremely dangerous against a group that at this level has been pretty camera shy. So we're going to take a big swing with our best bet at 12-1. We're getting creative here with Harlow Cap in the 11th at Churchill, Ashley.
I don't blame you. Miranda Wrights was almost my fade for the week. And, Harlow Cap being by Justify. Certainly, we've seen a lot of turf winners by Justify recently. So I like that pick. We'll see what happens there. Well, for my best bet, I'm actually in the same race that your fate is in, Darin. So I'll hold off on talking about the morning line favorite in race 8 at Churchill Downs, but I'm going number 7, Queen of Paris at 4-1 is my best bet in this 1 1/16 mile maiden special weight. Now, this is a selected races money back offer, which you're going to talk about later, Darin. So I thought I'll take a chance with the third choice on the morning line here. And this is a horse that started out, made her debut at 7 furlongs and got up to finish third. Now going to try a route distance for the first time. Thought she looked good in her debut at Churchill Downs. And like I mentioned, there's a morning line favorite in here, Genetics, who I think is vulnerable yet again in this maiden special weight spot. We've actually had this horse as our fate in the past in the jury. And if you look at the Chad Brown runner, who's 7-2 on the morning line, I feel like there's reason to back off of that horse as well. Hasn't faced a whole lot of rivals in her last 2 starts. So I'm going to go with the Brad Cox runner and Queen of Paris here, who will have Florent Giroux aboard as well. So a really good jockey at Churchill Downs to have. And like I said, it's Brad Cox who does really well with maiden special weight runners and a 28% winner with second career starts as well. This is also a Tapit filly out of Street Sense mare. So I like the pedigree here stretching out and has a sharp 4 furlong workout at Ellis on June 15th. So I'm going 4-1 Queen of Paris.
Yeah, her damn
And I'll
wedding
switch
toast.
things.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say her damn wedding toast was outstanding. And I think the PPs, if you're just looking at the paper, don't really show how bad she got away from the gate. I mean, that gate completely, that start, excuse me, completely compromised Queen of Paris's chances last time. I mean, she broke, it says 8th and 9th. I thought she broke dead last. She just missed the break, wasn't ready for it. It was a good effort. Save time is entered Friday in a 1 1/8 maiden special weight at Aqueduct. So keep an eye on to see whether or not she runs there or at Churchill on Saturday.
Well, let's switch to the horses we're fading at a short price. And Darin, and you're in the same race. So why are you fading Genetics?
Yeah, it's just the profile of a horse at a morning line that I'm going to try to beat. 0 for 5 against some runners that only have 1 or 2 lifetime starts with considerably more upside. Genetics last year, her debut, I thought was excellent at Saratoga, where she prompted the pace, made an aggressive move, and then just tired late. Debuting 2-year-old 7 furlongs is always tricky. So I thought that was a really good effort. Then she kind of came out of the gate a little sideways in her second start. Maybe you have an excuse there. But now she's off to a slow beginning at Keeneland, late start that day,
second.
late
Genetics
start
pops
last year
outside
at
from
Churchill
third.
Downs. And though that was actually going to be Travis Stone calling her to come in to finish third, beating a length and 3/4. But that was a race where she was off slow again and had to come from far back. So you've kind of seen a pattern where she's creating her own issues in these races now, 3 in a row. And then last time she came off the layoff, and I guess, you're going to say she's short. I didn't really see any excuse why she had to lose 2.5 lengths to the winner in the stretch. She's going to get overbet once again. She's well-bred. Obviously, Belmont, you respect the horses as they typically improve with time. But my concern is that I really don't see much improvement with this filly through her first 5 starts. I think maybe her debut might have actually been her best race. And I think your selection, Queen of Paris, has considerably more upside. Even a horse off the layoff like Murphy's Gift off a speed fade angle, Sustantia off a speed fade angle. I think there's other horses in here that one of them I think is going to jump up and run a really good race. And that's why Genetics keeps losing, because she's not jumping up at the better race when somebody else does. So I'm going to fade her again at a short price. I've done it before, and we'll go back to that well again.
I agree. She's racing on Lasix a second time, second start off the layoff, but I just don't see a reason why she's going to improve. And raced 7 furlongs last time, now going back to a 1 1/16 and finished third both previous times at that distance. So a big fade for me as well. James, what about you?
All right, my fade is going to come in race number 6. It's number 6, Out of Door, who's a 6-5 morning line favorite. Wesley Ward has run a pair of turf sprinters, one in late April, one in late May, for an $80,000 claimant tag, and both of them won. One of them was Out of Door on April 27th. The other one was Bound for Nowhere on May 25th. And there was a horse that was in both races, and he's in this field on Saturday. His name's Counterstrike. Now, in this race against Outdoor last time, you'll see him run Counterstrike run ahead second this day. Outdoor barely held on to beat him in there. That runner Counterstrike came back a month later. A couple of runners in that field are also in here, and he ran an 8th in this allowance against Bound for Nowhere with no excuses. In that May 25th allowance, number 4, Clear the Air, was in there, and he ran a good second. He came back. It was a troubled 6th or troubled 10th at Saratoga. He's an excellent rebound candidate in here. And even B.D. Valesky, who's listed at 12-1 on the morning line, ran a better race last time. And, I think against better competition, and he's building towards a good performance. So I think Outdoor was fortunate to hold on by a head last time, but I think he's stepping up to face a much deeper group at this level, and I'm going to fade him at short odds in race number 6.
It's interesting. He has a Brisnet prime power rating that's 20 points higher than the next closest in the field, Counterstrike. But I had a feeling you might be going with Counterstrike or even B.D. Valesky, the 2 only late runners in the field. We have a lot of horses in this field that like to go to the front, so I could see it setting up for.
I am gonna pick V.D. Valesky. I'm gonna pick this race 7-4. I'm gonna pick V.D. Valesky and Clear the Air straight out of that race in late May. I thought that was a really tough turf sprint, and I just like it. It doesn't surprise me that off of that win, Wesley Ward runs Outdoor right back for a tag. I don't think he would mind having somebody halter him because he got the most out of him last time, winning that race narrowly.
Yeah, and he's a 6-year-old gelding, so he's never really proven to be a great stakes type. So I certainly understand them putting in for 80,000. I Counterstrike was my best bet on the jury that weekend of April the 27th at Churchill, and that was a really tough loss in a lot of ways where he got beat ahead. And I bet him back next time and was really disappointed with his effort on May the 25th, which I really could not find much of an excuse for. It's a bold fade, James. I've bet against him a couple of times. I wish you well.
It is a bold fade, but I do like the price on B.D. Valesky. I think there is a chance there at 12-1. And I'm going to take it over to race 4, a 1 mile allowance for fillies and mares, and I'm going to fade number 1, Windy Walk, at 5-2. Not to be confused with another runner in this field, Windy Bay. Kind of weird that we had 2 horses with similar names like that. But number 1, Windy Walk, is a 3-year-old coming off a 4 1/4 length win in a claiming race at Churchill on May 23rd. Recorded an 86 Brisnet speed figure, which is the highest last race speed figure. But I'm looking at the competition in this field. The race rating came back a 110. And if you look at every other runner in this field, they've been facing tougher competition. Now, Windy Walk is going to be facing Allowance Company here. Last time she faced Allowance Company, she finished far back in 7th. So I'm going to play against her here. I like Windy Bay, number 5 at 3-1. Looks like a stronger contender, cutting back in distance, just barely missed in her last 2 when racing at 1 mile and a 16th. So I think cutting back has a chance here. And then there's number 3, Thorny at 7-2, also making a cut back in distance for Mike Maker. And even number 7, Classic Performer, second try to route distance. So see a lot of reasons to look elsewhere outside of Windy Walk off that claiming win. All right, well, let's move on. I know that's a boring race. Let's move on to
No, I can see it. I mean, she's a slight favorite, but 5 of the runners in that race are 9-2 or less, and I can see your reasoning.
Yeah, I like Thorny there, so I'm on the same page as you, Ashley.
Well, let's talk about the promos we've got going on, plus a contest coming up, Darin. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the contest because I've never taken a picture that good. If you take a look at the in the top right corner, my kids got a kick out of that. Yeah, we're having a fantasy handicapping contest where every week, everyone you see on the screen is going to make 3 different selections, I believe it is, in 3 different stakes races throughout the weekend. And it's going to be based on return on investment, win, place, and show. And you're going to basically pick the handicapper that you think is going to perform the best. And then the player with the highest score, you're going to be entered in to a contest to win $100. So it's pretty cool. We're going to be doing this each and every week for the next few weeks. Happy to get it on track. A little bit of a challenge this week, having a handicap a race at Ascot. I admit that is not my forte. So I don't know if I'm the guy to go with on this particular week, but we'll see. But Ashley, I think you have a very nice caricature. Your caricature looks like somebody out of like like one of those like animated like Disney movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that could be like Princess
kind
Anna
of
or
me.
something from Frozen. Yeah. So and
Like
Joe
I
Grant
look at these
looks like him.
images, and it's like
Yeah,
Joe looks like a
Frozen.
evil villain.
Yeah. So
James, you're being serious.
to be honest with you, I was trying to figure out. It took me forever to realize it. I'm looking at this and going, "What does this remind me of?" And then I suddenly realized it's like the Guess Who board, the old game that we used to
Yeah,
play. The little
Yeah.
picture.
got a comment about that on Twitter.
Was there? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I need to get a vest. I don't have any vests.
Yeah.
That's high best.
I know.
Yeah, they got kind of a Mr. Rogers thing going on for you there, James, with the vest.
I know.
Yeah.
I will say, Royal Ascot this weekend, that guy in the upper left-hand corner in the red might be the guy to back, Vance Hansen. He's covering Royal Ascot all week, so he might be the guy to win the first week. But I don't know. We're dark horses this week, I would say, all three of us, because we don't really cover a lot of overseas racing. But
No, we have that one.
keep your eye on like Trevor Young and
Yeah.
Japanese racing.
We have that one, the Chicago Stakes, and the Ohio Derby are the three races this week. So hopefully we all perform well and we get a lot of participation. It's a pretty cool idea. Jeremy Jones put this together for us, so we're looking forward to participating. And of course, we have our Churchill Downs money back. That continues selected races each weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. $10 your money back, second and third, as long as there's 8 or more. Second only if the field were to scratch down to 5. We always, if we can, assuming there's enough races with at least 8 horses, try to pick races where you'll get money back for second and third, but sometimes there are scratches. So definitely pay attention to that. That runs throughout the entire meet. And Royal Ascot rolls on with a money back offer as well, selected races for second and third. You don't normally have to worry about there being scratched down to less than 8 horses at Ascot. There's normally about 35 in each race. So tip of the hat to you if you perform well there. But we're happy to offer this. I think this is our third year doing the Royal Ascot money back, and it's always well received. So happy to give that back to our players as well as we get ready to move into the dead of summer. The heat's certainly here, and the offers page will definitely heat up as we get into some of the marquee meets of the summer as well, guys.
Well, James, I'll turn it back to you. What are you watching out for this weekend?
Well, I just want to mention Joel Rosario. He's in England this week. He's riding at Royal Ascot up until Friday. His last mount will come in the opener Friday upon Burning Pine, who's a Nyquist filly, a real sharp debut winner. She's going to switch Keeneland. She's going to switch from dirt to turf for Wesley Ward, and then after he rides in that Albany Stakes Friday, Rosario will be heading to the airport shortly afterwards. He's flying back across transatlantic flight, and then he's going to ride at Aqueduct, the Belmont at Aqueduct card on Saturday. He's got 4 mounts rides a trio of horses for Christophe Coman on the undercard. And then in the Wild Applause Stakes, he's on Chantilly Road, last out maiden winner for Chad Brown. So I'll be watching to see how Rosario does after that adventurous trip overseas. He is a 2024 Hall of Fame inductee, so getting ready to have a big ceremony for him at Saratoga in a few weeks. And just wanted to point out he's making this. You don't see that too often. Jockeys ride on one continent one day, and then ride in America or vice versa the next day.
Talking about Joel Rosario gives me a chance to talk about just quickly my favorite Kentucky Derby ride of a horse that didn't win. And if you ever watch Joel Rosario's ride on Practical Joke in the 2017 Kentucky Derby from post 19, it never gets spoken about. But from the 19 hole, he had that horse on the rail before they reached the wire the first time, saved every inch of ground, made every right move, and a horse that was probably at his best, 7 furlongs to a mile, was in contention to win the Kentucky Derby at the 8th pole when he swung him out in the stretch. He never got a call in the stretch for some reason that always kind of astounded me, because when he made that move, I thought he had a legitimate shot, and he was just limited by distance limitations. But Rosario's ride on Practical Joke is something that you should take 2 minutes and go back and watch, and I got to talk to Chad Brown about it at the trainers dinner. And he said that he uses that ride to show like jockeys that he puts up on horses in the Derby. If you're going to ride my horse in the Derby, this is what you need to do. I don't care that he didn't win. This is what I expect. So, but yeah, Rosario going into the Hall of Fame, very well deserved, and logging a lot of miles. Hopefully he's got first class tickets. I'm sure he does.
Practical Joke never won at a 2-turn distance, and
Yep.
you're putting out that heck of an effort. I'll tell you, I had McCracken, but that was a heartbreaker that he got up to beat. I mean, he beat him on the wire for fourth. I thought Practical Joke was going to be in that super, and his odds were huge. So
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that happened, but that's right. I mean, that was a heck of a performance from a horse that was really at his best, like going 7 furlongs or a 1-turn mile.
Speaking of the Derby, we've got a Derby runner in a grade 3 this weekend. So Darin, tell us about I was going to say the Chicago, but the Ohio Derby.
Yeah, the Ohio Derby, race 13 on a nice card at Thistledown on Saturday. Last year, 2 fills came out of the Kentucky Derby to win this race. Unfortunately, ended up being the last race of his career as he sustained an injury and might have been the best 3-year-old that we actually had last year. Catching Freedom is the 9-5 morning line choice in here. Interesting to see what he does. He was closer in the Preakness. The result was kind of similar. Kentucky Derby, we know that he came from the clouds to finish a good fourth. He's obviously facing lesser competition this time around. Copper Tax, who was originally going to run in the Preakness but eventually withdrew, I guess based on the morning line, is his biggest competition. But you're talking about 2 horses that are pretty big closers at a track at Thistledown that's not necessarily known for its closing tendencies. And I thought a horse like Batten Down was really interesting here for trainer Belmont. Son of Tappet at a close hatches, if that sounds a familiar combination, would make him a full brother to both Tacitus and the recent grade 3 winner Skilla. So Batten Down, it's taken him a while, guys, to, I guess, hit his best stride. But he's been improving. This is the kind of improvement you want to see with a Mott runner who's getting better as he moves along. And with his early speed and his tactical speed and Junior Alvarado back aboard, I think he's very dangerous against the field of 3-year-olds that I'm not sure how good the best 3-year-olds are. Uncle Heavy doesn't thrill me. Copper Tax doesn't thrill me. And I really don't want a short price on Catching Freedom coming from far back on this racetrack. So Batten Down is actually going to be my pick in the fantasy contest, guys. And I think he's got a shot at 8-1.
I do too. I thought that was. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that was your pick for the fantasy contest, because that was the other horse I was looking at. I mean, Catching Freedom looks on paper head and shoulders above the field, but the fact that there's not a lot of speed signed on, I don't like him as a late.
I don't really love the spot. Like, if Asmussen was that confident in this horse, would he really run him in the Ohio Derby? And not to like knock the race, but this horse was 4th in the Kentucky Derby, won the Louisiana.
Brad Cox.
I'm sorry, Brad Cox. Excuse me. 4th in the Kentucky Derby, 3rd in the Preakness after winning the Louisiana Derby. There's plenty of big races coming up throughout the summer. Would he really point him to the Ohio Derby here? I don't know. I just doesn't seem to me that they're oozing with confidence to run in this spot, and I think he's worth the play against.
Yeah, I look at him. I don't know if anybody in that race will be good enough to beat him, but I exactly the way I see it. I want to take him on. I will say I thought Batten Down's race at Keeneland, that was a brutal trip, like 2 starts back. Junior Alvarado put him right on the front end last time. I expect to see him hustling in from the gate. And if he's like 4th, 5th, or 6th early, I'm going to be disappointed. I think his speed is improving, and he definitely has the quickness in my mind to be at least prominently placed in the early going. So I hope he gets that forward trip on Saturday.
Real quickly, I'll mention the other grade 3 going on in the U.S. this weekend, the grade 3 Chicago at Churchill Downs. It's the highlight of our Saturday card. And we've got a small field, but we have 2 very strong contenders here in Society, who won this race last year by a record margin of 10.5 lengths and had the speed record as well for the Chicago. Now, Vava is the other. I really feel like it's probably going to be just these 2-horse race maybe in this edition of the Chicago. But Vava is 3 for 3 at Churchill, just won the Derby City Distaff back in May, got her first grade 1 victory in that race, and then also has 4 wins from 6 starts at the distance. So I'm going to try to play Vava. I mean, you're not getting good odds either way, even money on Vava or 4-5 on Society. But Society is the only early speed horse in this field. So Darin, I think you're probably That's your angle, right? You're going to go Society, getting the early lead, having her way from the start.
It's the combination of, number one, she's run very well at Churchill before. She is the only speed in the race. It's a short field, and Vava is likely to be the one that's in a position that she has to chase Society.
Yeah.
And I don't mean stalk, because I don't think Vava could lay right off her. I think she's going to be chasing from about 3-4 lengths off, and I don't like that spot for horses in short fields when you're facing quality speed. I think in that situation, it favors the speed horse all the time. If this was a 7-8 horse field and there was somebody else involved that had that role, I might feel differently. But because I'm not saying Society's a better horse than Vava, I'm just saying the dynamics of this race, I think, favor Society.
I think it was a good plan. I think Vava could have gone out to Santa Anita last fall and run third or fourth maybe in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. I mean, she was in good form at the time. But I thought it was a very wise move by Cherie DeVoe to bypass that trip, that potentially hard trip, and win a pair of grade ones like in the spring with her. Society did go to that Filly Mare Sprint, and this is her first race since then. So I look for Vava to be better this year than she was last year. I mean, I think she's already like shown that a little bit. Her numbers could be better. I'll grant you that. But visually, she's done everything right so far, and she's got a lot going for her.
Yeah, I think I'll back her in this spot. I mean, we have this in our fantasy handicapping. We're not going to get good odds either way. I don't know if anyone else playing against us will go.
I think it's relatively inconsequential. I mean, it's whoever wins, it's going to be the difference of like $4. And I mean, if Batten Down wins, I'm really not gonna care too much about the result of this race, to be honest with you.
I'm hoping I find a price in the Jubilee, but that's really
I think that like Darin might be onto something, because I don't agree with this morning line at all. I mean, I got Vava at like 3-5 and Society like 6-5. And, I do think you're taking the better priced horse potentially by taking the speed like he was saying.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to. It's just the dynamics of this particular race. If you put these two horses in a 9-horse field that's got some other speed in it, where Vava is sitting fourth, and I feel completely different. It's just this particular race, I think, sets up well for Society.
All right, well, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires jury. We'll be back next Thursday. And, of course, head to TwinSpires for those promos that Darin mentioned, and check out our social channels for that fantasy handicapping contest starting on Saturday. We'll see you next time.